What's up guys, my name is Ace, and Tactical Stance in Black Ops 6 is something that really isn't talked about a whole lot, and for good reason. In this case, unlike with Modern Warfare 3, we have to use an attachment in order to gain this, and for most guns in the game, it's just not very good, largely because there's nothing we can do to improve our Tactical Stance spread, and therefore we're stuck with whatever spread they give us when you put that laser on. In saying this though, there are a good handful of guns where Tactical Stance is actually very solid, and those are the ones I wanted to cover in today's video. We're going to be taking a look at my top 10 favorite Tactical Stance setups in Black Ops 6. And before we dive into the setups themselves, just a basic overview of why you would even want to use Tac Stance in the first place. And the main reason is just for a change of pace. It's just something different to use, a different way to play. For the most part, you're probably just going to be better off fully aiming down sight and not using the tactical laser. But if you want to branch out and mess around and have some fun with something different, Tactical Stance can be effective. And the primary benefits you gain from Tactical Stance are the ability to strafe faster in gunfights while still being reasonably accurate, especially if you're in a close quarters gunfight. This allows you to be a lot more evasive as you're shooting back at your target, at least reasonably accurately. And then another big thing about this is you don't have to worry about your aim down sight time as much, since you will be able to get fully tightened up with that Tac Stance spread faster than a full aim down sight time with the exact same setup. And when it comes to that spread value itself, initially I thought this was directly tied to your hipfire spread values, and it would just be a percentage of your maximum hipfire spread or your minimum hipfire spread. But it turns out that's not the case based on my testing. There's often a trend there, but it's not directly tied to those values as far as I can tell. And instead, it's just a value that's been chosen for each of the guns individually, and it's better for some guns compared to others. Now, unfortunately, our Tac Stance spread doesn't show up in the advanced stats, so all of these spread values I'm sharing today are the closest approximations I can get, just based on essentially measuring pixels relative to our minimum and maximum hipfire spread values. And with that out of the way, let's dive into my number 10 setup here. This is my AS Val Tac Stance setup. Now with this one, we're using the Ranger foregrip, Extended Mag 2, the CQB grip to help with sprint out time and slide to fire and dive to fire time. Those values are going to be the most important when using Tac Stance, when it comes to handling at least. We've got the Infiltrator stock, which allows us to strafe as fast as possible while in Tac Stance. And then of course, we have the tactical laser itself, which is the attachment that allows us to use Tac Stance. Now, I just want to point out, you're going to be seeing a very clear trend with these attachments throughout basically all of my setups. Many of the attachments are going to be exactly the same, and that's simply because they're best suited to a Tac Stance setup. However, you will see a little bit of variety sprinkled in at least. But with this, we get a Tactical Stance spread of roughly 1.75 degrees, which is really solid for this game. And with the AS Val, it's got a very high fire rate, and it tends to excel in like close to mid ranges, which is what you want to see out of a Tac Stance build, since that's where most of your fights should be taking place. As for the next build we've got on my list here, this is the SAUG Tac Stance build, and this is the only build I'm going to be sharing today that requires the Gunfighter wildcard. And with this one, we've got the suppressor, the long barrel, Ranger foregrip, Extended Mag 2, CQB grip, Infiltrator stock, tactical laser, and rapid fire on this. And with this one, surprisingly, our Tactical Stance spread is actually a little bit worse than the AS Val. However, this setup really excels with mobility. Not only can you sprint around the map insanely quickly, it's the fastest sprint speed you'll find out of a primary weapon in the game. We also get a very, very impressive Tactical Stance aim walking speed, especially if you combine this with Slipstream, which gives us that additional boost to all of our movement speeds. And that's really where this particular gun excels. Even though it doesn't have the best Tactical Stance spread, it excels with mobility very heavily. After that one, we've got the Kompakt 92 full auto Tac Stance spread, and there will be another build that I share with the Kompakt 92 a bit later. But with this, we actually get the exact same Tac Stance spread as the previous build with the SAUG. And with this one, the only attachment that's really different from the rest is the integrated suppressed barrel. So that keeps us off the radar while also giving us a range and bullet velocity boost. And the main reason that the Kompakt is so good in Tac Stance is simply due to that rate of fire and time to kill potential up close. That rate of fire is so insanely fast that even when you miss a few shots here or there, which you're going to do with Tac Stance, it doesn't really matter nearly as much as many other guns in the game. And that's why this gun tends to excel quite a bit. Now after that, we're going to branch away a little bit just for variety's sake here before we get into my favorite Tactical Stance builds in the entire game. I did want to make sure that not every gun on this list was just an SMG and an assault rifle, so I did want to dive into the pistol category, and in my eyes, the best pistol for Tac Stance is the Grakova. And this is largely just due to the fact that this is full auto and it's got a fairly high fire rate, or at least reasonably high for a pistol. And while you don't get the best Tactical Stance spread out of the pistol category, in my eyes, the semi-autos with significantly slower fire rates, they just can't afford to be missing any shots. Otherwise, their time to kill spikes through the roof. And like I said before, you're going to be missing some shots with Tactical Stance. And as a result, this is my personal favorite if I also want to use a secondary weapon in Tac Stance, which I think is going a bit overkill, but I wanted to share at least one for you guys. And then another kind of out there Tactical Stance spread that I wanted to share today before we get back into like the truly best Tactical Stance builds. This is with the AMR Mod 4. It's actually surprisingly effective, obviously, as long as you're controlling your ranges. You're not going to be trying to pick people off across the map with this build or anything, but you get a reasonably tight spread, especially for a sniper rifle at 2.25 degrees. And unlike with the bolt actions where you're never going to get that second shot off, it's actually possible you will with the AMR Mod 4. And it's got a very forgiving one-hit kill potential as well to top all of that off. So in my eyes, this is the best sniper Tac Stance build you can create. And it's pretty effective, especially if you're playing on the much smaller maps. Like if you play Stakeout 24/7 and you really want to use the AMR, this build would actually be quite effective. Now let's get refocused a little bit to the best of the best when it comes to Tac Stance. And we're going to move into the shotgun category now, because I highly recommend using Tactical Stance with shotguns in combination with the modified choke. I did mention earlier in the video that you can't actually improve your Tactical Stance spread. That's with the regular guns. With shotguns, you actually can by using the modified choke, and you get an insanely tight Tactical Stance spread, as we see there with my ASJ89 build. And in my eyes, this is often the best possible way to use the shotguns in this game. So with this ASJ89 setup, we've got the modified choke, the long barrel, the CQB grip, the tactical laser itself, and then finally rapid fire for those faster follow-up shots. And then after that, it turns out my favorite shotgun build in the entire game, my Marine SP build, is also a Tactical Stance build. And with this one, you get an insanely tight Tactical Stance spread at just 1.15 degrees. We're once again using that modified choke, long barrel, Ranger 4 grip this time, so we can get around the map a little more effectively with those sprint speeds. We've got the combat stock on there as well, and then finally the tactical laser to top that off. And this is such a great build. In fact, unlike with most of the other guns where Tac Stance is just used for like a change of pace, but it's probably not going to be as versatile or as good as just fully aiming down sight, in the case of the shotguns, and especially in the case of the Marine SP, this is actually more effective than any other method of using the shotgun. Tactical Stance is amazing with this gun. And with that out of the way, let's get into my top 3 favorite Tac Stance builds that aren't shotguns at least. And with number 3 on my list, we have the KSV. Now with this one, the attachments are pretty much the same as what we've been seeing earlier. We do have rapid fire on this one though. Our Tactical Stance spread is very impressive for a full auto gun at 1.7 degrees, although that's still not the best Tactical Stance spread. And the KSV itself has just an incredible time to kill potential up close, solid handling and mobility stats, a really good gun overall, and it handles very well in Tactical Stance. However, surprisingly, we have an assault rifle with the same Tactical Stance spread as the KSV. This is a very impressive spread, and this is with the XM4. This one was a big surprise to me. Our Tactical Stance spread on this is 1.7 degrees. And we're using the exact same attachments as the previous one. So we do have rapid fire on there, which just helps our time to kill potential a little bit and makes it a bit more forgiving for any missed shots. And the XM4 is actually incredible with Tactical Stance. If you guys haven't tried it yet, it's the best assault rifle to use in Tac Stance, at least in my opinion. But with that one out of the way, this leaves us with my personal favorite Tac Stance build in the entire game. And this one was a bit of a surprise for me. This is the Kompakt 92 using the 3-round burst mod. With this mod equipped, it will actually tighten up our Tac Stance spread, so I guess this is another exception where there is a way to combo it to get a tighter Tactical Stance spread. And while it is a burst gun, the burst delay is very short and you can just hold down the trigger. You don't have to tap fire this at all. And I find those bursts tend to be very tight within the Tac Stance spread. And there's just enough time within the bursts where it seems like your Tac Stance spread doesn't really grow as much. It doesn't bloom out as much as the other guns as you're firing, which just allows it to be a lot more accurate. And I found myself stretching ranges out surprisingly far with this setup and still hitting shots very accurately. And I mean, a big part of that is the fact that we do have the tightest possible Tac Stance spread that I was able to find in any gun that's not a shotgun, at least, at 1.65 degrees. That is quite a tight Tac Stance spread for this game, at least. I mean, it still doesn't hold a candle to some of the Tac Stance builds you could create back in Modern Warfare 3, but it is still very usable in this game and quite an enjoyable change of pace if you are looking to switch things up a bit. And with that, that's going to wrap it up today's video on my top 10 favorite Tactical Stance builds to use in Black Ops 6. And if you guys haven't tried these out yet and you haven't really played around with Tac Stance and you're looking for something a bit different in game, I would highly recommend giving these a shot and just seeing how you feel about them. I think you'll be very pleasantly surprised with some of these. I initially wrote off Tac Stance entirely in Black Ops 6, but it turns out with the right setups, you can actually make it work quite well. Now, of course, these are just my opinions, and I'd love to hear what you guys think in those comments down below. First off, are there any guns that weren't on this list that you like using in Tac Stance? And second, how do you feel about how they've handled Tac Stance in general in Black Ops 6? Do you guys like the fact that you need to use an attachment in order to activate Tac Stance? And do you guys also like the fact that, for the most part at least, there's no method of combining with other attachments to improve that Tac Stance spread? Just let me know all of those thoughts down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.